All right, here's a podcast quick on review of exponent rules, and we're mainly going to just focus on powers of 10. But if you have 10, say, cubed, remember that means to take the factor of 10 times itself 3 times. So this is your base, this is your exponent, so this is 10 times 10 times 10, 3 times. Now, if you have 10 to, say, the negative third, it means to do the same thing but to reciprocate. The negative exponent doesn't mean you have debt or anything, it just means the reciprocal of that. So it'd be basically like 1/10 times 1/10 times 1/10. Or if the answer up here is 1,000, then I know that 10 to the negative third is 1,000th. Right, so if I know, let's see, that 10 squared is 100, then I automatically know that 10 to the negative second is 100th. So again, negative exponent just means to reciprocate. That's all it means. All right, so if you ever took an algebra course way back when, some of you it's closer time-wise than others, but if you have, say, something like 10 to the fourth times 10 to the second, a lot of times teachers have you memorize these rules, which really you don't need to memorize, you just need to think about it. This is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. This is another factor of 10. So basically you just have all these factors of 10 and you're just counting them. And when you count, you end up getting 6. Okay, so if you have 10 to the third times 10 to the fifth, you have 10 times 10 times 10, but then you also have 5 more factors of 10. Right, so if you have 3 tens and then 5 factors of 10, then you have a total of 8 factors of 10. And so if you just think about it, if you're counting, then the trick must be to do what? You add exponents, right? And so a little acronym to help you with that is MA, like your mom or Ma. When you multiply exponents, powers, you end up adding the exponents. Okay, so if you have a base with an exponent, the same base with the exponent, then you can add. Obviously, if they're different bases and you're counting different things, you can't do that. All right. Now, as far as if you have a power to a power, so something like this, again, you don't have to memorize anything. Think about what that means. This means that you have 3 sets of this. So you have 10 squared times 10 squared times 10 squared. And then again, you can multiply those out if you want to, but you end up having 3 sets of 2, which means you end up with 6. And again, you could break it down even further if you want. There was an annoying YouTube video a long time ago that I found, and I can't find the link anymore, but he's like, if in doubt, write it out. So if you're not sure, if in doubt, write it out, and then you can figure out what the answer is. All right, so again, if I have 10 to the 8th squared, that means I have 2 sets of 10 to the 8th. So I have 10 to the 8th, and I have another factor of 10 to the 8th. So again, I could write all these out. That would be 10 times 10 times 10, dot, dot, dot. There would be 8 of them. And then you have 10 times 10 times 10, dot, dot, dot. 8 of them. So I can see that I have 16 total. So again, if you think of this as being groups, I have 2 groups or 3 groups of 2 or 2 groups of 8. That should remind you of multiplication when you learn multiplication in elementary school. If you add, 3 groups of 2 or so forth, or so here I have 2 groups of 5. I have 1 group of 5 and another group of 5, so 2 times 5 is 10. So when you're dealing with groups, you're multiplying. When you're just counting, you're adding. But when you're dealing with groups of things, I have 3 groups of 2, 2 groups of 8, that's when you multiply. Okay, so when you have a power problem, okay, a power problem like a power to a power, then you are going to multiply exponents. So that's a little acronym to kind of help you with that if you want. But again, it's common sense. You should be able to write it out and think about it and not need any trick. But if you're one of these people that, please give me a trick, there's your trick. Okay, if it's power, you end up multiplying exponents. Right, and then the last thing we have is division, and I'm going to switch colors just because it's getting kind of busy. So if I have, say, 10 to the 8th divided by 10 to the 2nd, again, you're dealing with exponent rules here. So we're not just dealing with dividing, you know, you could multiply that and divide by 100, but I'm trying to keep the factors. So if you think about fractions a little bit in canceling, that's going to help you out. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 factors of 10, and then 2 factors of 10. And again, when you divide fractions, you can cancel, right? So if you cancel, how many factors of 10 are left? There's 6. So if you're canceling, factors are going to go away, so it makes sense that you would subtract your exponents. Now, with negative numbers, sometimes this freaks people out a little bit, so we gotta kind of think about this. All right, here, think about what this is. This is 1,000 divided by 100th, because remember, negative exponents mean reciprocate. So when we did 10 to the negative second, you're really dividing by 100th, or like a penny. So you're taking $1,000 divided by a penny, and you want to see how many times a penny goes in there, which obviously is going to be lots of times. There's kind of two ways to do this, the think about method and then the rule method. The think about would be you have 10 cubed times negative exponents mean to reciprocate, so you're going to flip it into the numerator because it just means to reciprocate. And once you reciprocate it, the exponent's fine. So you have 10 times 10 times 10, another, so if you count, you have 10 to the 5th. If you're a rule person, you have to look and think of a rule. When you divide, you end up subtracting exponents. And I think of DS, which is like my son has a Nintendo DS. So when you divide, you subtract the exponents. So if you subtract, again, you have to be careful with your math here. This is 3 minus a negative 2. And so again, you have that double negative, which is 5, 10 to the 5th.